Welcome back to the deep dive. We're here again to really get under the hood of some fascinating sources, cut through the noise, and hopefully give you some insights that, well, stick with you. You know, when we talk about the global AI race, there's this common picture, right? Everyone's watching the leaderboards, waiting for the next big public model, the one that smashes all the benchmarks, grabs the headlines.
Yeah, it's all about who's got the fastest, the smartest, the most capable general AI that anyone can access.
Exactly. Like this sprint to create the next, digital superstar, ready for its big reveal. But what if? What if we've been looking in completely the wrong place for the real AI revolution? What if the most impactful stuff isn't even meant for us, the public, not designed for headlines at all? Okay, let's try to unpack this today. We're diving deep into a perspective that, well, it doesn't get a lot of airtime in the West, based on our sources. We're calling it China's AI strategy, practicality over public power. Our mission really is to dissect why. Why, according to the material we've looked at, the world's most powerful public AI model probably won't come from China.
And crucially, why that isn't seen as a failure on their part.
Right. It's presented as a deliberate, very strategic choice. We'll explore their philosophy, contract it with the Western way of doing things, and look at some surprising factors. Geopolitics, demographics, stuff that could actually position them as the leaders, maybe the hidden leaders, of this AI agentic revolution.
That term itself is interesting. Agentic revolution. We should probably define that a bit more later.
Good point. Yeah, we definitely will. And look, this isn't just, tech nerds talking geopolitics. This is about how AI will weave into your life, how businesses everywhere will operate, even what these powerful tools end up costing all of us. Prepare for maybe a few aha moments. Might completely flip how you see this whole AI race. So just kicking off, what strikes you first when you think about how different cultures might even define winning in AI? Because that seems, well, absolutely central here.
It really is the starting point, isn't it? And our sources hit this hard. There's this fundamental cultural split in how the U.S. and China see tech competition, especially AI. It's not just a slight difference in emphasis. It shapes their entire national approach, investment, goals, how they even measure success. It's deep-seated values playing out in technology.
That's a great way to put it. And the sources are pretty clear on the U.S. side, right? There's this really ingrained focus on victory, on being number one. Superiority. You see it everywhere in American culture, don't you?
Yeah,
sports, business.
absolutely.
And in tech, it means pouring resources into these high-profile contests, showcasing dominance. The individual competition, the personal achievement, the leaderboards, being visibly the best.
It's deeply cultural. Celebrate the win, make sure everyone knows who won. And in AI, that translates directly.
Yeah, the sources argue that for the U.S., winning often means creating that single most powerful, benchmark-crushing public model. It's about the headlines, the supremacy, and things like HLE or ARC-AGI.
Okay, maybe a quick clarification on those. HLE and ARC-AGI, for folks not deep in the AI weeds.
Sure, good idea. So HLE, human-level evaluation. Think of it as testing AI on complex tasks needing common sense, creativity, kind of human-like reasoning without specific pre-programming. General intelligence, basically. ARC-AGI, the abstract reasoning corpus, is more focused. It tests the AI's ability to spot patterns and solve totally new problems it hasn't seen. Real abstract thought, not just spitting back data.
Got it. So for the U.S., topping those charts, especially publicly, that is the win.
That's the cultural lens, yeah. Visible, measurable dominance is the goal. Okay. Now, contrast that with China. The sources paint a very different picture. For decades, they say, the focus has been much more on, well, practicality.
Pragmatism.
Exactly. Real-world results, economic impact, societal benefits. The culture, as the sources describe it, doesn't quite idolize that individualistic competition in the same way.
It's more about the collective.
Yeah.
National progress.
Yeah, that seems to be the emphasis. Solutions that deliver tangible, widespread improvements. Less about the solo superstar, more about lifting the whole system.
And if you follow that logic, it means their AI priorities are just fundamentally different. They're not chasing the title of most powerful public model. They're not obsessed with those benchmark leaderboards we just mentioned. Their focus, scalable solutions, things that slot right into everyday operations across industries, across society, driving progress you can actually, measure.
Which leads to that key question you raised. If public supremacy isn't the goal, what is?
Right. And the sources suggest companies like DeepSeek, Alibaba, Tencent, they're not playing the same game. They're aiming for something else entirely, something more embedded, maybe quieter, but potentially more transformative within their own borders. Utility over visibility. It's a long game.
Okay, so while China's on this distinct path, Things are also shifting quite a bit in the West, aren't they? Particularly with the established players. Our sources actually paint a pretty stark picture for OpenAI, suggesting it's, and I quote, quickly fading within the AI space. That's a strong statement. It's not just opinion. They point to concrete issues.
It is strong. And it makes you ask, okay, why? What's driving that perceived decline?
Yeah.
The sources point directly to a loss of key talent, a brain drain. They name big names: Ilya Sutskever, Jan Leik, Andrej Karpeth. These aren't just coders, they're architects of this stuff.
And they left why? Concerns over safety, governance, the company's direction, especially since 2023.
That's what the sources indicate, yeah. Departures driven by these deep, sometimes ideological clashes about how fast to push versus how cautious to be. Losing people like that,
Yeah.
it can cripple innovation.
Right. It disrupts research, you lose that embedded knowledge, creates uncertainty. Really tough in a field moving this fast.
Exactly. And the evidence cited goes beyond just personnel, right? It gets into performance.
Yeah, this was striking. ChatGPT-5, despite all the anticipation, apparently didn't manage to beat Grok 4 on those HLE and ARC-AGI-2 benchmarks.
That's a significant data point.
The details are interesting, too. Grok 4 hitting 68% on ARC-AGI-1 versus ChatGPT-5's 65.7%. Okay, maybe sounds small, but in these complex reasoning tests, that gap matters.
It does, and the coding challenges.
Grok showed 15% better performance there, apparently, resolving complex coding problems. That's a very practical, real-world metric where they fell short.
So it's not just hype, it's measurable performance gaps appearing, according to these sources. Gaps in the very areas the West uses to define leadership.
And the challenges aren't just at OpenAI, are they? The sources suggest even the giants, Google and Microsoft, have their own constraints.
Yeah, the phrase used is too entrenched in the corporate status quo.
What does that mean in practice, though?
Well, the implication is that this entrenchment, being large public companies, leads them to build in a lot of safeguards. Content moderation, trying to avoid controversy.
Which makes sense from a business perspective, I guess. Broad appeal, avoid PR nightmare.
Sure, but the trade-off, according to the sources, is that it can limit how candid the AI is on sensitive topics. Politics, history, anything potentially divisive.
So a kind of built-in caution. Might feel like evasiveness to some users.
That's the potential downside highlighted. Balancing commercial needs, public perception, liability, versus raw, unfiltered accuracy or truthfulness. It's a tough needle to thread for these massive public platforms.
Okay, so OpenAI facing headwinds, Google and Microsoft potentially constrained. This is where it gets really interesting, according to the sources. They predict the top public AI models from the West for the next, say, 4 or 5 years.
Will come from xAI, Elon Musk's venture.
Exactly. That's a bold call, suggesting a major shift in the Western landscape.
It is, and the sources credit Musk with a specific philosophy here, a dedication to making AIs that are more open, more truthful than competitors, less sanitized.
How would you even test that?
The sources suggest trying yourself. Voice chat with the top models about controversial stuff, politics, difficult history. The claim is Grok's responses tend to be more direct, less pre-programmed to sidestep the issue.
That truthfulness angle could be a real differentiator then, appealing to people who find other models too cautious or maybe biased.
It's definitely a unique positioning, and it's not just philosophy, right? There's the speed aspect, too.
Yeah, the sources mention Musk showing he can easily accomplish in months what his competitors take years to do, citing things like rapid progress on multimodal capabilities and real-time reasoning.
Maybe explain those quickly. Multimodal and real-time reasoning.
Sure. Multimodal just means the AI can handle different types of information at once, text, images, audio, video like humans do. Real-time reasoning is about processing new info and adapting responses quickly, on the fly.
So speed and agility. Less corporate baggage, maybe?
That seems to be the implication. A leaner, faster iteration cycle. Huge advantage in AI. Okay, so the West has its own dynamic playing out, a potential changing of the guard, philosophical debates. But while that's happening, China is, as you said, playing a different game.
Entirely different. Which brings us to their stealthy ascent and this idea of the AI agentic revolution.
And the key insight. The Chinese are apparently fine with that, meaning they don't mind if xAI takes the lead in the public model race.
Right. That indifference speaks volumes. It's not weakness, it's strategy. They're just not aiming for that same public finish line.
So let's define it now. What is this AI agentic revolution they're supposedly targeting?
Okay. According to the sources, it's not about building one giant, super smart, general AI for everyone. It's about deploying lots of specialized, intelligent agents.
Agents doing what?
handling specific vertical tasks within industries. Think autonomous agents managing supply chains for a factory, or predicting machine failures, or personalizing education for millions of students based on real-time progress.
So not chatbots. These are like AI workers for specific jobs.
More like proactive decision-making systems designed for defined roles. And here's the kicker. Strategically, the sources state this goal requires neither the top AI models nor the top GPUs, in the same way building a massive public model like GPT-4 or 5 does.
So they can achieve their goals without necessarily needing the absolute bleeding edge, most expensive hardware or the single most powerful algorithm.
Exactly. It shifts the focus from brute force computation to efficient, targeted application. Changes the whole resource equation.
And is this actually happening? Is there evidence of this agent deployment?
The sources point to surging adoption rates in Chinese businesses.
Mm-hmm.
From under 10% just a few years ago to potentially half of enterprises using AI agents by 2025.
Wow. That's fast.
It's incredibly fast. And it's transforming real industries. Manufacturing, logistics, getting more efficient, more automated, using these cost-effective agents. It's a quiet, pervasive integration.
A quiet revolution, like you said, not making headlines, but changing the economic engine.
Precisely. But there's another layer to their strategy, a more defensive one maybe, this geopolitical factor.
Right. The sources mentioned the Trump ban factor. This sounds pretty direct.
It is. The source states the Chinese are, quote, rightfully afraid that if they were to come out with the most powerful AI models, Trump would ban them.
So the fear of U.S. sanctions or restrictions is actively shaping their public AI strategy.
That's the argument. It's not abstract. They remember trade wars, tech restrictions. A ban could cut off access to crucial chips, software, data, partnerships, everything needed for a top-tier global public model.
So focusing on internal enterprise agents makes them less vulnerable, less dependent on things the U.S. could potentially restrict.
It creates a kind of resilience, yeah. Minimizes exposure. It's a strategic calculation based on perceived geopolitical risk. Keep the crown jewels safe. Avoid provoking a reaction.
That's fascinating. It suggests their path is as much about navigating global politics as it is about pure technological ambition.
Very much so. And then there's the foundation supporting all this.
Yeah.
Their economic model.
Yes. The sources make a pretty bold claim here that China's hybrid capitalist communist model has, quote, already during the last few decades shown its superiority over the Western capitalist system, at least in terms of driving this kind of growth.
That's a strong statement and obviously debatable, but the connection made in the sources is that this model allows for a more directed and integrated approach to deploying technology like AI.
Less driven purely by market forces, more by national strategic planning.
That's the idea presented. And they back it with figures. China's GDP growth, exploding from around 2.3 trillion in 2005 to over 14 trillion recently. Average annual growth often over 10%.
Compared to the U.S.
More modest expansion, maybe 13 trillion to 21 trillion over a similar period. The point the source makes is that this economic engine, built on their specific model, allows for massive, sustained, focused investment in strategic areas like AI, perhaps without the same short-term shareholder pressures seen in the West.
So the ability to play the long game, essentially, focusing on practical applications that build the economy over time.
That's the connection drawn. And this focus, the sources predict, will make China the leader in these everyday practical enterprise applications, the stuff that actually fuels economies.
Like the AI in cars or industrial systems. You mentioned Bosch using these agents in their Chinese factories.
Exactly. It's happening now. AI optimizing production, logistics, quietly building this huge lead in functional applied AI.
But then there's this other layer, something the sources say almost no one talks about, demographics.
Right. This is where it gets really perhaps controversial, but it's presented as a key factor. The source cites average IQ statistics, around 98 for the U.S., around 107 for China.
Okay, acknowledging the sensitivity around IQ stats, the source presents this as a cognitive edge.
As a statistical advantage across a massive population, yes. The argument isn't about individuals, but that a higher average, scaled up, provides an edge in complex problem solving, in innovation. faster assimilation of technical knowledge.
Compounded over 1.4 billion people versus 340 million.
Exactly. And then you add the sheer numbers, 4 times the population. It just creates a vastly larger pool of potential talent. Engineers, researchers, data scientists, skilled users.
It's a human capital numbers game, in part.
A significant part. And then there's the education pipeline feeding into that.
The STEM PhD statistic. This one was genuinely staggering. China graduating STEM PhDs at a rate of 10 to 1 over the U.S.
10 to 1, according to the source. That's an immense difference in the flow of highly specialized talent, the people who will literally build the future of AI.
And this isn't new, right? They've been outpacing the U.S. in annual STEM doctorates for a while.
Since the mid-2000s, apparently. Projections show them producing nearly double the U.S. output by 2025. It's this sustained, massive investment in high-level technical education, a deliberate national strategy creating this deep well of expertise.
Okay, so putting it all together, the demographics, the cognitive aspects cited, the STEM powerhouse, the sources conclude it's not that China can't eventually develop AIs more powerful than even Grok. They absolutely have the capability.
The raw potential is clearly there, based on these factors. The human capital, the focus, the resources.
So why won't we see these super powerful Chinese AIs topping the public charts?
Because they won't release them publicly. That's the core argument. They see it as counterproductive, inviting an OpenAI war, regulatory backlash, IP fights, maybe those sanctions we talked about.
It's a strategic withholding.
Exactly. A deliberate choice to keep their most advanced capabilities under wraps. Prioritizing national advantage and security over global fame or benchmark wins.
So these top models exist or will exist, but they'll be hidden.
Hidden from public view, yes.
Yeah.
Working behind the scenes. The sources say they'll be the engine creating those less powerful but infinitely more practical AI agents.
The ones driving that agentic revolution in 2025-26.
That's the picture painted. An invisible powerhouse fueling this wave of applied AI, all operating away from the global spotlight. A silent, pervasive transformation built on top-tier tech that we just don't see directly.
Okay, so let's talk implications, global implications. What does this all mean for, everyone else? For the AI landscape, for costs?
Well, the first point the sources make is, don't expect something like, say, DeepSeek R2 to be the absolute most powerful model in the world by those public benchmark standards. But you should expect it, and models like it, to do a multitude of jobs across a multitude of industries more than well enough.
The focus shifts, right, from raw power to effective utility.
Getting the job done reliably and efficiently in the real world. That's the measure of success in their strategy. Precisely. Managing logistics, streamlining manufacturing. That's the value, not necessarily winning an abstract intelligence contest.
And the cost aspect, this seems huge.
It's potentially revolutionary. The sources state these practical agentic models will operate at a fraction of the cost of frontier models by OpenAI and the other American developers.
A fraction of the cost? How?
By leveraging more efficient architectures, maybe optimized hardware, focusing on inference costs, the cost of actually running the AI, rather than just training the absolute biggest model possible.
So making powerful AI much cheaper to use day to day.
Exactly. Think about scaling that. Lower cost for supply chain AI, customer service bots, agricultural tech, medical analysis. When you apply that across whole economies, it's transformative. It's not just a discount. It's a paradigm shift in AI economics.
And this affordability, driven by China's strategy, the sources say it benefits everyone. How does that work?
Well, the argument is it drives down AI costs globally. It democratizes access, meaning more businesses, smaller companies, even organizations in developing countries can afford to use effective AI tools. They don't need the absolute most expensive frontier model from the West. They can use these highly capable, cost-effective Chinese agents.
So it accelerates productivity gains everywhere, not just in China.
That's the potential positive externality, yes. Making AI an affordable utility, like electricity or computing power, rather than a luxury good, only tech giants can truly leverage. It fundamentally changes who can benefit from AI.
That really does make you rethink what winning means here, doesn't it? Maybe it's not the public crown, but widespread, affordable impact.
It certainly challenges the conventional narrative.
Okay, so wrapping this up, this deep dive, the main takeaway seems pretty clear. This whole global AI race, it's not just about building the flashiest public model for bragging rights.
Not at all.
China's strategy, according to our sources, is rooted in practicality, economic results, a keen sense of geopolitical risk, and it's aimed squarely at dominating this agentic AI revolution, using effective, cost-efficient, often hidden systems.
A quiet transformation, not a loud victory parade.
We've touched on the cultural differences, the shifts in the West with OpenAI's challenges and xAI's rise, China's strategic pivot to enterprise agents.
And those underlying advantages, the demographics, the STEM output, that fuel their capability, even if they choose not to show it all publicly.
It really forces a reevaluation of how we track technological leadership.
Absolutely. And it leaves us with a really important question for you, the listener, to chew on. If the most powerful, truly impactful AI systems end up operating largely out of sight, deployed for specific, practical tasks deep within the economy, how does that change our understanding of global tech power?
What does it mean for transparency, for competition?
And ultimately, who really benefits from this AI revolution in the long run, if the most potent tools aren't the ones we see on the leaderboards?
Definitely a lot to think about there. Looking beyond the headlines into the actual engines of change,